Hello, this is Tisha from Meadows and Mortar by Tisha, and today we are going to be doing this beautiful woodland themed nursery furniture. So this is for a special friend of mine. This furniture was actually hers whenever she was a child, and she wanted to get it redone to be able to make it into her new baby daughter's nursery room. It had a lot of gouges in it, so I just sanded those down. I cleaned everything well, and then I used Paint Couture's 2-in-1 primer over all of it. And then I come in with some custom decoupage paper. Now, these are custom prints that I bought from Etsy, and then I had them printed off on my own decoupage paper from the Shabby Hummingbird. And you can find her on Etsy. She is absolutely phenomenal to work with. Her papers are very, very good quality, and I suggest that you give them a try. She's easy to work with. I'm using Paint Couture's Extreme Guard as my adhesive for my decoupage paper. So after I lined my paper up, I wanted to make sure that my hardware wasn't going to fit in between the deer's eyes or anything like that. So I did kind of measure that out a little bit, eyeball it some, and then I sprayed the back of it with a little bit of water. I just used a mister bottle like hairdressers would use, and it just had plain tap water in it, and I used that to loosen up the fibers on the paper. So I just sprayed the back of the paper, and that's going to help keep you from getting wrinkles back there. So whenever you apply whatever adhesive that you're going to be using, so in my case it's the Extreme Guard, whenever you put dry paper on top of a wet product, that's whenever you're more likely to get wrinkling. So what I like to do with these quality papers that can hold up to the extra moisture is I like to spritz the back of it with water, and that's really going to release those fibers, and it's going to make the fibers swell up a little bit so they don't freak out once that they hit that wet surface that they come to contact with. Now you'll see that I use my fingers whenever I am doing my decoupage. I feel like the pads of my fingers are my best tool, but they do make decoupage tools out there, and you can absolutely use those, just whatever you feel comfortable with. So the decoupage tools, it's like plastic on one side and felt on the other side, and you use the felt side to kind of smooth everything out, and it keeps your papers from tearing. But I like to work in sections and just use my fingers. So now I flipped that up, and then I spritzed the back of this bottom section, and then I add my clear coat on the next drawer, and then I just work my way down. And you can see there are some detailed edges on there. So I get the flat part, and then I take my fingers and I really work that paper into the detailed areas so that I can make sure that I don't have any lifting or wrinkling in my final product. Now once that it's all laid on there, I'm going to come back in with that same Extreme Guard, and I'm going to put it over the top of the paper. So now I have it at the bottom of the paper and at the top of the paper. So this is going to sandwich it in on my piece, and it's going to really make it a part of the piece of furniture. It's not going to be something that's going to just peel off of there. I mean, you would have to get out a sander to get this sucker off of there. And I don't know if you noticed it, but up there on that left hand side, I did tear that ear out because I am going to leave that ear kind of flushed up on the left side of the piece. I thought that it would look funny if his or her little ear was cut off. So this other piece of decoupage that I have is just florals. It's the same florals that's in the deer, but I just have just the florals on this page. So I'm going to put it on the top pieces of the dresser that goes with it, and then I'm also going to put it on the back area of the bookshelf part of the desk. And I'm just really trying to tie this all together, make all of my pieces flow cohesively. I didn't want them to be like super matchy, but I did want them to have enough interest that you could see that they were a set. But at the same time, if you wanted to use these pieces separately in different rooms, you absolutely could. So after everything dries, you let it dry for a good 24 hours. You can come in with a razor blade, and you're just going to cut off the excess, and you're also going to cut in between each one of the drawers. And I just use a straight razor. You can use like a box cutter or whatever you want to use. Just make sure that you're using a nice sharp blade, because if you use a dull blade, then you're going to end up in a lot of trouble, because it's just going to peel and like roll up the edges of it. You're going to get frayed edges, and it's not going to look as professional. French Rose and Mystic Gray from Paint Couture Paint are going to be my main colors that I'm using on this. So I come in on this top drawer and I put all of the French Rose over the whole piece. And then I come in with a little bit of that Mystic Gray and I'm just kind of touching the edges of it because this Mystic Gray is a lot darker than that light pink. And then I'm just going to blend them together. So you can see that I'm just going back and forth with a light hand. Now that's the most important thing to remember whenever you're blending two colors together. And it's one of those things that's hard to teach unless you're in front of somebody. But you want to hold that paintbrush really loosey-goosey. You want to make sure that you're using a light hand. If you're using a very heavy hand and you're pushing hard on that piece, then you're going to get a lot of brush strokes in there and you're not going to be able to blend those colors together quite as easily as you would if you use a loose grip like I am. So you're just wanting to use feather light touches to blend these together. You come in side to side, up and down, left to right, whatever you need to do. Sometimes I swirl them together. But at the very end coat, then that's whenever I'm going to come with the wood grain. So I go from left to right on my very final coat so that it looks very professional and finished. It doesn't have like a choppy look to it. The goal that you have here is to not be able to see where one color starts and one color stops. If you can see that there is a stark line in between one color to the second color, then you've not done your job. And what you need to do in that case is let it dry, come back in with a second coat. I always have a minimum of 2 coats, sometimes 3 coats with my blended finishes. And that's just so that it can look seamless. You will never, ever, ever get a good blended finish on a furniture piece with just 1 coat of a blended finish. You will see people do that and it looks unprofessional 95% of the time. So I always suggest doing at least 2 coats. Sometimes it will take 3 coats. So you can see whenever I'm working on a larger surface like the top of this, I kind of work like 1/2 at a time. So I put my pink all over the whole entire piece, and then I'm going to come in and work my gray in sections at a time because I don't want it to dry out. If it does happen to dry, if it's starting to get a little bit tacky, you can see that I come in with a water mister bottle and then I'm just lightly spritzing some water on it, and it's going to help my paint move a little bit better. It's not going to drag quite as much and you're not going to get as many brush strokes. Now, right now, this time of year, it's cool in my workshop, and I don't have to do this quite as much. In the summertime, whenever it's, 100 degrees outside, I do have a few more problems with it, and I will have to use water a little more. But for the most part, you don't have to worry about it unless you're working on a really big surface like this whenever you're using Paint Couture paint because it blends so nicely. In their chalk style paint, I love to use it for blending. I hope that one day they will come out with all of their colors in their chalk style line because they are the bomb diggity. And right now they do have a limited color selection in their chalk style paint, which is my paint of choice to use. And I do want to take the opportunity to just ask you, if you're not already following my page, then give me a follow. It's Meadows and Mortar by Tisha. I'm obviously here on YouTube, and I have a Facebook page that I am very active on, and I would love to have you follow me on there. I also have a TikTok, but I'm not really on there that much. I don't personally do TikTok, so it's hard for me to remember for my business page to use a TikTok as well. But I am on there. But if you don't care, just give me a follow on Facebook and on YouTube. And if you do like my videos on YouTube, then just give them a thumbs up and hit that notification bell up there so that you can see whenever my new videos come out, because the more that you interact with me, the more that my videos get pushed out and the more content that I can make. And I'm always doing, decor stuff, furniture stuff. I'm always trying to do fun stuff, and I try to teach at every level. I try to teach the most basic things up to the more complicated things. So I'm hoping that once that I build up my library of videos, that I will be able to appeal to more people, and there will be something for everybody. And I hope that you learn something from my videos, and if there's something that you would like to see me do, then just drop a comment and I would be happy to try if I know what I'm doing in that particular area. And if not, then maybe I can point you in the right direction to another artist that can do those things for you. And also don't forget that in the description box of this video, I will have a link for my Paint Couture products, and you can get any of those products. It's not going to cost you any extra to use my link. It just lets Paint Couture know that you found their products through my videos. Now I'm coming in with more of that pink over the bookshelf part, and then I'm going to come in with a little bit of green. I'm using Paint Couture's Autumn Sage, and I'm just going to trim out the dresser top drawers. So just those top drawers that I put that decoupage, that floral design on it, I'm going to come in with that Autumn Sage around the edges of it, and I'm just trying to sort of bring more of these colors together. I thought that at first that I would just use the pink, but then I was like, no, I want a little more of a pop of color, because I had plans of using that green on the hardware, and I really wanted to just tie it in together more. And I know the look of the nursery that this is going in, the color of the walls and stuff, and I thought that that green would give it a really nice contrast. So I showed you before how to do the blending, so you can see what one coat looks like. You can see where one color starts and one color stops. They're blended together, but they're not blended nicely. So I'm just going to do one final coat of this just to show you what I do. So you saw that I misted it with a little bit of water, because that chalk style paint, once that it's dry, it gets a little bit gritty, so the water is just going to help it glide a little bit better. And then I do the same thing. I put the pink all over it and then the gray on the sides of it, and then you can see me coming in with this bigger brush. This one is the Cristana brush, and this is a big old fat brush. It has nice soft bristles on it, and this is really nice to use whenever you're working on large surface areas. You don't have to have a brush like this, but if you do, it does make large surfaces quite a bit easier. So I'm just blending those together. I'm doing the same thing as before. I'm using a light hand. I'm going in different directions. I'm trying to make sure that it's all really melded in together, and you can't see where one color starts and one color stops. Now it's a little bit harder whenever you're working on these drawer surfaces, because the edges of it are beveled, and I'm wanting to make sure that I'm getting the same color contrast on the beveled edges up to the flat surface. So you may have to work a little bit longer whenever you're working on drawers like this, but that's fine. It still comes out really, really beautiful. Now on that Autumn Sage, I looked at it and I was like, I don't really like it to be as stark as it was, so I come in with a little bit of that French rose. I just put a tiny bit on it, and I'm using my fingers to smudge it out so that you're going to be able to see the French rose on the top, but it's going to kind of mute it down a little bit, and you will still see that green color peeking through from the bottom. And if you're not like me and you don't like to use your fingers, then you could use like a little sponge or something to dab that on, paper towels or just something. Just make sure that you're putting a light amount of paint on it. I come in on the little pearl accent areas, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm just adding a little more of the green, and then I'm adding it more like concentrated to the outside, and then, you know, less concentrated on the inside. And then I made all kinds of these castings from Paint Couture's black casting resin of just these different back plates, and I used a bunch of different molds. You can use any design that you want. I just wanted something to look a little more fancy and classy and upscale behind the knobs that I was going to be using on it. So you can see that I'm just coming through and I'm dry brushing a little bit of that Autumn Sage on there, just in random areas, not using very heavy amounts of paint, just enough to make it kind of peek through. You're still going to see the black, we're still going to see the green, then I'm going to come in with a little bit of the pink. I don't know if I got that part on video or not, but I did put a little bit of the pink on there. Now I'm coming through to top coat everything. I'm using Paint Couture's Extreme Guard, and I'm using it in a sprayer. You obviously do not have to use a sprayer. I'm using just a Wagner sprayer. You can get these for around like 120 bucks or something. But don't think that you have to do this. You can absolutely brush this on. I just used a sprayer because, one, whenever I'm doing that crib, it has all those different little slats in it, and it's hard to do those without runs if you're not using a sprayer. And it was just such a large volume that I was having to do at the same time, so that's the reason that I use the sprayer on these pieces. But you absolutely can brush these. The Paint Couture's Extreme Guard levels so nicely. It doesn't matter which way that you're using it. It's going to come out perfect, I promise. And I did not get it on the video, but you can see that I glued those back plates onto everywhere that the hardware was going to go, and I just drilled a hole straight in the center of all of them so that I can be able to attach my hardware to it. I used Top Bond Quick and Thick to glue that on there. You can use whatever kind of glue that you prefer for your furniture, but I find that the Top Bond Quick and Thick, it works really well, it sets up nicely, and I don't have any problems with it trying to come off. Now, if you wanted to use all of the same designs of back plates, you absolutely could do that, but I thought that it would look pretty to have the variation. That's why there's a different one on every drawer. And if you don't have a collection of molds like I do, then that's completely fine. You know, buy one set of molds and then just use those over and over again, because that quick set resin that you get from Paint Couture Paint, it sets up in 10 minutes and you can demold it and it is perfect to use. So it wouldn't, I mean, you may have to spend a whole evening on it to, you know, keep demolding all of them, but you could absolutely do that. But I just did all of these in one setting. And you can see that I'm using just these simple crystal knobs on the top, and then I'm using some gold knobs for the bottom ones. And then I come in with some redesign with Prima gilding wax in the color Eternal. This is their gold, and I just put it on the top of my brush, and then I'm just going to hit the high points of these molds. So you're still going to see my black, you're still going to see the green, and you're still going to see the pink, but then the top part of it is going to have a nice shimmer with this gold, and it's really going to tie everything together. Now, here is our final product. Look how beautiful this looks, guys. I was so proud of this, and I'm so excited for this to go in my client's nursery. I am just tickled pink with it, and I hope that you guys love it. I hope that you guys learned some things. If you have any questions, just send me a message or drop it in the comment box. I am very active with the people that follow me, and I love to help and I love to teach. That is my passion. So if you have any questions, then please let me know. And guys, thank you all so much for watching.